How many of you know and understand that your emotion is a determinant of who you are? I'm Dorothy Richards, and this is my EDCO 725 Design Instruction Assignment on Emotion-Focused Therapy. Emotion-focused therapy is an empirical scientific intervention that is founded on the premises of bonding and attachment with others. It's designed to address and redirect your negative interactions in couples, families, and individuals. In the 1980s, Dr. Sue Johnson founded emotion-focused therapy for couples. She realized that most of the couple interventions ignore emotions, and she's a firm believer that negative expressions or emotions in relationship is a determinant factor of the relationship. A couple of years later, Dr. Robert Elliott and Dr. Les Greenwood founded the emotion-focused therapy for individuals. What they did was they modified EFT for couples and came up with a method to treat individuals. There is a substantial amount of research outlining the effectiveness of EFT. Approximately 70 to 75% of the couples has transformed from distress to recovery, and 90% of those showed an important and significant amount of improvement in their relationships. During this class, we have 3 learning objectives: the ability to identify the primary emotions, the ability to identify and track negative cycles in interactions, and the ability to track and reprocess primary emotions. And now we're going to have, what is emotion-focused therapy? EFT is a unique method that guides clients in accepting, expressing, and making a dramatic change in themselves to develop a more secure and positive bond with themselves and others. The therapist, along with the client, look at the negative patterns in their relationship to take measures to create a more secure bond and develop trust and develop a healthier bond in their positive relationship. The EFT approach includes elements of person-centered therapy, the Gestalt therapy, and systemic therapy, and attachment theory. EFT is based on 3 principles: increasing awareness of the emotions, enhancing emotions regulations, and transforming the emotion to a more positive relation. Now we're going to have a short video by Ann Hurley on EFT.
What would it feel like to be completely understood? To be fully yourself, without judgment or scrutiny? What might happen if you embarked on a journey of inner discovery? What if you could literally reshape the way you feel about yourself, your life, your future? We believe anything is possible, and that the possibilities begin when we delve into our felt experience. From our perspective, emotions, whether apparently good ones or supposedly bad ones, are all welcome friends. We run into problems not because of the type of emotions we have, but problems in how we perceive, process, accept, or express them. We propose the best way to create lasting change is not through a deliberate attempt to alter thoughts or behaviors. Rather, we believe when we come into direct contact with our inner experience, an innate intelligence arises and instinctively leads to deep-rooted change in perception, thought, and behavior, as well as emotion. We need to arrive at a place before we can leave it. In other words, when it comes to emotion, we need to feel it in order to heal it. The role of an emotion-focused therapist is to be a kind of emotion coach, helping you move from painful and repetitive patterns of feeling to an ever-changing landscape of emotion that is fresh, alive, and invigorating. This process happens by moving through a variety of tasks that are designed to foster growth, empowerment, and choice. Working with an emotion-focused therapist is probably quite different from anything you have done before, and that is what can make it so exciting, scary, strange, comforting, and transformative.
What's unique about emotion-focused therapy is that we meet each client or in their minds and bodies. And although the theory of the training guides us and is a backdrop to our work, it's really through the collaboration and connection with each client that we engage in a creative process of working through the difficulties to help each person be exactly where they want to be.
We have found that self-criticism can melt into self-acceptance. Rage can surrender to hurt. Pain can subside and reinstate hope. Virtually any difficult emotional state can be explored and worked on until it becomes something that is serving us for the better. We're here to see you as you truly are, to guide your progress, and to help you make the changes you are seeking. We believe in the transformative power of emotion-focused therapy and invite you to begin your journey today.
Moving on. What is the relationship between EFT and the attachment theory? The attachment, the common bond between the two is that the attachment theory concludes that the strong attachments for a caregiver provides the necessary sense of security and foundation for bonding, whereas EFT is based on the concept of suffering, and our personal relationship is the result of our fear of abandonment. You know, as most of you that have kids realize that as an infant, or your infants develop a bond with you when they're small. And you see that when you leave the room, they start to cry because they feel that that bond of that security that they have in you has been broken. And you see it again in relationships. When the relationship has been terminated, then one person might suffer as a result of it because of that security in that relationship is now over. Why our emotions are important. This is a video by Dr. Robert Elliott on the importance of our emotions in our lives. While the video is processing, there are 4 types of emotions. Primary adaptive emotions, which is the initial response, emotional response to a specific stimuli. And the primary maladaptive emotions is the responses to the given stimulus, the emotions based on the emotions that no longer exist. In that form, can anybody give me an example of a maladaptive emotion? Yes. Yes.
Depression.
Yes. And can anybody give me one for the primary, a primary adaptive emotion? And those are going to be the initial response to a particular stimuli.
Depression, not speaking.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, the secondary reactive responses are complex reactions to the primary adaptive or the maladaptive emotions responses. And that's going to be particularly like when you lose somebody and you grieve and you get into a depressed state. And then instrumental responses are those responses that are experienced as a result of the learned behavior. And that's when you're depressed and you start lashing out. I think we discussed that a little bit earlier.
So you said instrumental as a result of a learned behavior, is that correct?
Yes.
Why emotion is important and how we can get stuck in problems with our emotions. So human beings have emotions because now we have a full range of emotions. And so emotions are quite important to us, but, and specifically emotions are important in three ways. First, emotions have information. Emotions point to important situations in our lives. So every different kind of emotion points to something important happening in the situation around us, in our environment. So if we're angry, it tells us that something, some boundary of ours is being violated. It could be our person or holding our property, but something is infringing on that boundary. And anger tells us that. Sadness tells us that we've lost something, we've lost a connection. Love tells us we're in the presence of a highly valued object, and so on. And so emotions point to important things in our lives, and they have information for us. So that means if we are not in touch with our emotions, then we are losing valuable information. We are being cut off from our situations, and we will not be able to cope as well because we won't have the input that we need. Emotions are also important because they give us a sense of continuity or direction in our life. So part of how I recognize who I am over time is by the quality of my emotions, the quality of maybe the sadness I feel at being slightly separate from other people. I recognize that from my childhood, my adolescence, my adulthood. And so emotions are important because they give us a sense of continuity or wholeness, a sense of being a whole self, which is important for human beings, so we don't feel so fragmented. And the third way that emotions are important is that they connect to action. They help us, prepare us for action. The word emotion basically means what puts us in motion, what moves us forward. And so if we know what we're feeling, then we can figure out what we need, what that emotion is, what need that emotion is pointing to, what we need in our lives, what needs to happen because of the emotion. So the emotions point to needs or wants, and if we know what we need or want, we can figure out how to get those needs or wants met. So if we don't have access to the emotions, we don't know what we need, and we can't figure out what to do. And that means that people who have severely block their emotions or constrain them, or people who have suffered injuries to the part of their emotions where they experience emotions, those people lose the ability to make choices in their lives. They feel lost and aimless. So emotions give us a sense of continuity. They give us information about the situation, and they help move us to action. Those are three ways in which emotions are important to us and are valuable, even essential for us being human and navigating through our lives. But people get stuck in their emotions. They have different kinds of difficulties with their emotions. And they have three main kinds of difficulties, I believe, with their emotions. The first of those difficulties is the emotions can get out of whack. It's like your emotional thermostat gets set too high, in which case you're stiflingly hot. You're overwhelmed with the heat in your house, for example. Or the emotions can be turned down too low. So the emotional thermostat can be turned way, way down, and then you're kind of cut off. It's as if you're kind of emotionally frozen. You get cut off from your emotions. So emotions can get out of whack either by being too low or turned down too much, so you're blocked, in which case you don't have information, you lose the sort of impulse to action, and the sense of continuity I was talking about, or the emotions can be too much. They can feel overwhelming. We can feel like they're just in our face, and that it's not that we're having the emotion is having us. We're in the grip of a powerful fear or an overwhelming sadness, and we just get stuck and can't get out. So sometimes the emotion is too much, and we need to find a way of moderating or containing or pulling back from that really strong or painful emotion. That's one way we get stuck in emotions. We can also get stuck in emotions if we don't fully develop them. Emotions connect to all the experiences we have, to our sense of the situation, to our stuck because we're not able to get out all the information and all the different aspects of emotion. And the third way we get stuck in our emotions is if we have one emotion that fits the situation, and then we do something we react against that emotion, and we block it with another emotion. So another emotion basically comes in and sits on top of, or interferes, or stops the first emotion. For example, if I have a quarrel with my partner over something, about when dinner's going to be ready or who's doing what, then I might feel anxious or afraid that the relationship's going to go downhill, everything will fall apart, and so I might start feeling afraid or anxious. But then instead of working with the fear, examining it, reflecting on it, seeing what it means, I might get angry instead. I might get angry at the fear, and that anger is going to come out either as anger towards myself for being weak and afraid, or it might come out as anger at my partner for causing me to be afraid. And so then I might go pick a fight with her, or I might get depressed and pull back at myself. And if I've just had a fight with my partner, me pulling back and pouting and being depressed, or me picking a fight with her, either of those things are going to not help the situation at all. In fact, will make it worse. So we can get into trouble if we let another emotion come along and cover up the most important and useful emotion. So we get stuck on our emotions, by not fully processing them, by letting them get too much or too little, or by allowing another emotion to come and basically shut down and make it the most useful emotion.
Okay, and what Dr. Elliott was talking about is that
all of the emotions that we have developed over the years moving on. The secure bonds that we develop as a child is a direct path of who we are as an adult, and that teach us how that we develop our bonds with people that we're close to. And what Dr. Elliott was talking about is that the emotions that we have inside is a direct result of the experiences that we have in our lifetime. And if you don't learn to express those emotions, whether they're negative or positive, then you get bound up. And once you get bound up, you get stuck. And then getting stuck, you start to lash out because you haven't expressed what's inside of you. And that causes more issues. And then the person that you're directed to may not be the one that needs to be. You need to get those emotions inside of you and discuss those so that you can have a healthier life. Because it causes other health problems in you when when you get stressed out or when you have anxiety. It causes other issues in your life. And how would you utilize EFT? The counselor needs to be engaging in the therapeutic process, revealing themselves to help in the transference and counter-transference in the therapeutic process. There's two methods that you can use, what we call the empty chair process. And that's when, it's created by Dr. Les Greenberg, that's when a client has an empty chair sitting in front of them, and they're presenting two opposing thoughts. That person that you have that issue with is not there, but you're sitting there and you're talking to them. You're not necessarily changing chairs, but you're talking to that person even though they're there, and you're thinking through that process. You're thinking through their perspective of it. And then, again, that helps you to see where you are and why you're doing what you're doing. And then you have the two-chair process technique, which is designed by the Gestalt theory, and it encouraged the client to create dialogue between themselves and two aspects of themselves. And that's where you have two chairs sitting in front of each other, like these two chairs here. But you're gonna sit in one chair and you're gonna express what those feelings are to whoever is toward, and then you're gonna get into the other and that opposing view to it to help you work through that process. And this is to help, by swapping the chairs, you see the other person's point of view. There are three stages of healing. That's assess and de-escalate, which is the first stage of healing. That's where the goal is to uncover the underlying problem. And then changing patterns or change the interaction of patterns. And that's the second step. That's when you create new emotional experiences to replace the old ones. The settings of the client's more effective way of communicating and identifying those issues. And then the third and final stage is consolidation and integration of change. And that's where you develop a plan and a resolution to the problem, and you put that plan of action in place so that long after you have completed therapy, you know how to adjust yourself and to redirect those negative thinking so that you can move forward in your life. And how does it work? EFT focuses on the present to facilitate change in the here and now. That's the present. What's going on in your life at that time. The counselor needs to be engaging and therapeutic in the process. You need to make sure that you are authentic in your relationship with your client. The EFT therapists use a combination of techniques and interventions to help them through the process. Empathetic listening is where you attempt to bond with the client. That's where you're going to create that secure bond so they can rely on you and trust you. And the genuineness or the non-judgmental interaction is you don't want them to think that you are judging them. So you want to be authentic in your relationship with them. You want to be honest with them. And normalizing and reflecting, this is when you ensure as a client that you understand that they're having a problem. That is okay. It's okay that they have these issues, but you're going to work together to overcome those issues so they can have a better well-being in life. And then you have the reframing individual experiences, and that's where you're going to provoke the client to have new emotional experiences. You want to take those negative emotions and you want to redirect them to something positive. And then track and reflect the negative cycles. That's when you're sitting there, you're talking to your client, and you're watching them, and you see them go off on this tangent. You're going to pull them back, you're going to stop them. And you're going to put them back on track so they can continue their healing process. And then redirecting the negative emotions, again, that's when you're going to teach the client how to handle those negative emotions in the future so they can, when they feel those emotions coming in or they experience something in a negative way, they know how to deal with it and move forward without making themselves stressed out and depressed. Next, we have a case study. Can someone read this, please?
Andrea is a 30-year-old married female with children, has sought treatment from an EFT counselor for depression. Andrea states more often that she does not feel like getting out of bed in the mornings. Andrea has isolated herself from her loved ones and her friends. Andrea feels that she is losing grip and having trouble coping and hiding her feelings from others. She does not feel as though she can trust others.
Okay, I want you to get into groups of two. And there's 3 questions that you need to look at. You have 2 minutes to look at it and then to discuss it, and then we have 4 minutes to discuss it. The questions that you're going to answer, you're going to identify the primary and secondary adaptive or maladaptive emotions, and the instrumental responses based on the description that we gave earlier, and what techniques that you'll use in guiding her to a healthier person. And then finally, you're gonna decide if Andrea is the only person who needs therapy, or is it others in that relationship, and then we'll go back to the case study so that you can see it.
Can I see the first question one more time?
Yes.
Can you show us the example or study?
Yes.
Yeah, they're ready.
What time y'all gonna be done?
Okay, everybody knows it. But find out what the proper cause of the depression is. Encourage her to take steps to- Okay. Identifying what primary and secondary adaptive or maladaptive emotions and the instrumental response that Andrea is experiencing.
We said that the primary would be depression,
Okay.
and the secondary would be isolating herself and staying in the bed.
Okay. Anything else? Anybody else have anything different?
I had depression for the primary and secondary, I wasn't quite sure on that one.
Okay, and you're actually right, because that's why it's important that, before you start your therapeutic process with your client, you're gonna go in an in-depth interview with them on what their issues is. What wasn't given in this case study is if Andrea had already been diagnosed with depression. And if she has been diagnosed with depression already, you would take that into account And you're right, her primary is the depression that she's having, but we don't have enough information to say what caused her to be depressed. So in answer to that, what techniques would you use in guiding her to change to a healthier person?
We say that when we speak with her, we'll be genuine, form a relationship with her, so she'll be willing to open up about what's causing her depression and then try to redirect her attention from it and get her to focus on other things.
Yes.
I think that you have to go back and find a moment in her life when she was happy and try to build off of that, because something during the process of marriage, having kids has put her in that state. So I think if you take her back and focus on some of the positive things with her husband, with her kids, you can build and have her build on a healthy, relationship.
And right, and that goes back to redirecting those negative emotions, finding something in her life that was joyful or that she was happy with, and try to get her to focus on building those new experiences based off of those emotions. You don't want her to continue on with those negative emotions because it's going to put her in a deeper cycle of depression. Is Andrea the only client to be treated in this situation?
Definitely the whole family needs to be.
Why do you think that?
Well, because she was isolating themselves. She was isolating herself from them, and especially, with children being involved. They don't understand why money's not around. So they need to, see how that has affected them, and how they feel about her at this point.
And I agree. I think she should be treated separately at some point, but I also think they should have family come in as a family, because I think you really can find out what the problem is, because the husband or the kids can contribute to some of the stuff that she's not.
Right, because she's not telling the whole story of why she's in this. It never mentioned anything about her husband, only the fact that she had been married for a number of years, right?
And there's something that's taken her joy away,
Right.
that normal people have when they have a family.
And the
She didn't
family-
want to be around them.
And the family may have saw this coming, they may have saw something that when this started, they can give you a time frame on when this started, and I think they could shed a lot of light on the situation, because it could have started, it didn't just start yesterday, they could have saw this coming maybe before the kids or after the kids. Her husband could shed light on that.
Okay, those are actually really good answers to this case study. And following up on that, the recap of what we've learned today is that emotion-focused therapy is based on your emotions. Your emotions are very important to who you are because of all of their experiences, the positive and the negative experience that you have experienced in your life is a determinant of those emotions. And then you need to express those outwardly. And if you don't express those outwardly, you get bound up. And then holding them in causes other issues with you. And then you start to lash out to other people. And then there's a number of techniques that you can use in order to do that. And sometimes you may have to use a combination of techniques. We learned that emotion-focused therapy is based on the person-centered therapy, just called systemic and the attachment theory, and it goes back to the beginning. Those secure bonds that you develop as a young child is what guides you as an adult. Teach you how to relate to other people, how you trust other people. Okay, well, thank you all for coming. This concludes our lesson for today, and I appreciate your participation in this.
How much I owe you?